now, please join us in welcoming the Minister of Tourism and Antiquities for Jordan, Lina Annab, in discussion with Skift Editor-in-Chief Sarah Kopit.
Being here, closing out the day today.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm very happy to be here.
Excellent. So, I want to get right into it. How is the conflict in Gaza affecting Jordan at the moment?
Wow.
Yeah.
What a question to start with.
Yes.
But thank you for starting with this question. I think we cannot talk about Gaza in passing. It's important every time we talk about Gaza that we remind ourselves of the suffering, the human suffering that's taking place in Gaza and in Palestine. And I really have difficulty talking about this in terms of how it's affecting tourism. I think it's affecting our shared humanity as a whole. So having said that, of course, the events in Gaza has impacted the overall political situation or the overall perception of the safety and security of the region here in our part of the world. To tell you the truth, when I was in Japan, I was following what's happening, but I was not very closely scrutinizing the numbers. So pretty much like probably many of you, I was under the impression that the impact of the conflict and the war on Gaza was extremely devastating on Jordan's tourism. But to my very surprise, and actually now when I look at it, I should not have been surprised, Jordan is quite agile, and it's quite agile. Its agility comes from the diversity of the product. So even though we have really seen drastic drops in certain visitation from certain markets, our diversity has really saved us in a way where the drops that we have seen from certain markets were met by some markets they maintained, if not increased.
Which markets?
Very good question. We are quite, our source markets are quite concentrated in Europe and America, and also in the region. And we divide it as GCC and Arab, meaning the GCC area and other Arab countries. The GCC and the Arab countries, we have seen an increase in the numbers. And of course, you know, people in this region, they are quite discerning and they understand the difference between Jordan and the other neighboring countries. So they understand the dynamics of these conflicts, and they understand that Jordan is safe, secure, and we have had to prove it every single time. Maybe once every 10 years we see a conflict, and then we are sitting here on stage trying to say how safe and secure Jordan is. So Jordan is safe. We have seen it in the number of visitors, and I would like to take this opportunity to invite you all to come and visit Jordan.
So you're talking to a room full of tourism and travel professionals and watching online. How exactly are you reassuring them? What is the marketing or the promotion? What is the messaging that Jordan is sending out to do that reassurance?
Yeah, well, this reassurance is not simply by just saying how safe it is. I think the resilience of the Jordan tourism sector has been shown and is being experienced by travelers who come to Jordan. Jordan is on the bucket list of every single person I know or I have met.
Myself included. Yeah.
So it's I think when we look at what today's travelers are looking for and what Jordan is offering, I don't think that you could find a better match in terms of the authenticity of the product, in terms of the experiences. I was listening to the previous speaker, and he was highlighting how important experiences are. And we happen to have that naturally. We don't have to even make it up. It's if you're looking for a Bedouin experience, you go into the desert and you find that. If you're looking for a purely immersive experience in the countryside, we have with us here Muna Haddad, who has started an amazing project in the countryside of Jordan, where she has empowered local communities. So we really have quite a diverse offering that visitors to Jordan, when they come, they find that it is it's quite what it is. How we are what we are doing to reassure, we are actually utilizing typical marketing techniques, if you like, whereby we're just saying, don't take our word for it, come and visit. So we have influencers, we have celebrities come to Jordan, share their experiences, share their stories, and time and time again, we find that Jordan is really proving to be much more resilient than we even thought ourselves.
Yeah. So sticking with politics, in the United States of America, we just had an election, and as it turned out, the new presidential administration is going to have a lot of power in the United States. Will that have any impact on Jordan?
Well, as you know, Jordan and the US have been allies we are very strong allies. We have very strong bilateral relations, and it is not dependent on one administration or one term. However, I think we cannot, I'm glad you're asking me this question, because when we think of tourism, we think of it as separate and everything else is, it's not, tourism, it does get impacted by politics. What happens in Europe is affecting visitation to the Far East. So the world is becoming very connected, and it's important to take that into consideration. As far as the impact of the new administration, I can't say much, but probably it might impact your inbound traveling, because in travel, there are many important drivers, but maybe two of the most important drivers are accessibility and visas. So maybe you don't have a problem with accessibility, but you might have a problem with visas, whereby certain countries or certain citizens of certain countries might not have ease of obtaining visas simply because of certain guidelines or policies. So that's my guess. So that's all I can say.
Yeah, we saw that in the first Trump administration as well. On to something a little bit more cheerful. I'm curious if you could tell us some of the things you learned when you were the ambassador to Japan, and some of the things that you may have brought along now to this gig.
Yes. Look, Japan is truly a great country. And I feel very fortunate to have served as ambassador there, because it was a great learning experience. Maybe the most important lesson that I learned being in Japan is how similar I found, the similarities I found between Jordan and Japan, especially when it comes to balancing heritage conservation and modernity. Maybe we might differ in the degrees of modernity, but probably we do not differ in terms of degrees of cultural heritage. Japan is very rich, and so is Jordan. And as we were discussing before, Sarah, sometimes we are under the wrong impression that they are mutually exclusive. To maintain your cultural heritage, to be modern means you have to deny parts of your cultural heritage, which I don't think so. I think it's the two go beautifully hand in hand together. And it is important to maintain that authenticity. I'll give you an example. Our traditional way of eating, we eat with our hands. And maybe 20 years ago, maybe this would have been looked down on. How can you use your hand for eating? And now I'm finding more and more people are becoming very, very proud of this. And they want to emphasize this. Going back to Japan today, you go to the fanciest restaurant, they still use their chopsticks. They offer you forks and knives if you want. but they keep their chopsticks. And I think we in Jordan should also work on keeping eating with our hands, because I don't think there is more heartwarming thing than just, feeling the food in your hand and appreciating it. So there is so much that I have learned in terms of appreciating how rich and deep our culture is, our heritage is. And this is something that I've always appreciated, but now I appreciate it more.
It also just kind of strikes me how beautiful travel is, right? Like thinking about these two different cultures, food, connection. I'm still very jet lagged, so, it's getting a little bit misty at the end of the day. The GCC is really just growing in leaps and bounds. I mean, you can just look outside, coming here to Dubai, the construction, the traffic, the people, it's everywhere. Saudi is doing amazing things as well. I'm curious how Jordan is going to compete with that. How it's going to try to kind of stay on the hamster wheel of innovation as all the buildings go up and everything is happening around it.
Yeah, I've even when I was in the private sector, I think defining competition is really a very tricky thing. I do not see this as purely competition as much as it is complementary. I think we can learn from one another. Our offerings are very different. So it's a question of identifying and of highlighting what this offering is. In Jordan, if I were to draw this parallel as that you just mentioned, Sarah, we in Jordan, the most important thing for us now is to remain competitive. And by remaining competitive is not by competing on the capital investment side or in the investment side, because the capacity of Jordan is not as big, let's say, as the GCC countries. However, investment is definitely a huge part of our plans, but maybe not at the scale that we might see in the GCC countries. Having said that, also the offering in Jordan is unparalleled. So even though we might find the construction or what I call the man-made endowments, we have also natural endowments that are unparalleled. And those are definitely our biggest selling or our biggest proposition. So when we talk about Jordan, and I'm not just saying that because I am from Jordan, I'm saying that because the uniqueness of Jordan's offering is really unmatched. There is only one Dead Sea in the world. There's only one Petra in the world. There's only one, Christianity. Many people are unaware of this, but Christianity started in Jordan. So we are also part of the Holy Land. And that's a uniqueness that Jordan has to offer. So whether we are talking to the religious traveler or we are talking about even adventure, the diversity of Jordan, the biosphere areas that we have in Jordan are in such a small country is just incredible. You can experience different biospheres just by going over 700 kilometers, from north to south. So that's I think these are our strong selling points, and this is where that's why I say it's not a competition. What we offer is very different what this part of the world offers, and it would be wonderful if we can combine this so the traveler that comes here can experience all of that.
A reminder to the audience, if you have questions for the ambassador, please send them on through the app. Back in the green room, we were talking about your career path and private-public partnerships. One thing that I think that the Middle East does so well is they pull from the private sector, bringing people with that experience like yourself into the tourism sphere. The U.S. doesn't do it as well. Talk to me a little bit about how you see the private-public partnership working in Jordan and even the Middle East at large, and why that is so successful.
Thank you. I'm not sure about successful, but no, joking. I think if I were to draw from my own experience, being in the private sector, and please I'm being very open, so don't mind me if I say something that might not be very politically correct, but I'm speaking about myself. When I was in the private sector, I had the arrogance of thinking that we in the private sector know better. I did not realize that, the private sector has its own imperatives and the public sector as well. So when I joined the public sector, I was very, very, I had a very set idea on how things are. And this always reminds me of an article that I read by Paul Krugman, the economist. And he has a very nice article. It's called "A Country is Not a Company." And it is indeed not a company. I think drawing from my private sector experience helped me a lot in the public sector, in where I am now. But definitely, I think we need, when we talk about public-private, we really need to understand that the interests of the private sector are very different than the public sector, even though they can complement each other. And the public sector can be a great enabler to the private sector, but it cannot take its place. And also the private sector cannot assume that the interests need to be all taken into consideration, be the priority, because those on the public sector, they have other issues to look after. So it's quite an interesting puzzle, but it's important that each sector understands the role that it has to play to make a successful union.
All right, we have questions from the audience. Landmark tourism is affected by new technology like virtual reality. So people now are seeking experiences based on tourism. How is MENA adapting to this? Have you ever worn an Oculus? That's question number one.
Well, I tell you, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I have a problem wearing these goggles. I really do. I just don't like it. So yes, I've worn it, but I don't like it. So so forgive me for saying that. I love virtual reality. I love the impact of it, because I love, all of us have a child inside of us. And I think virtual reality takes us there, where we start imagining things, where it puts us in environments that are so heartwarming and touching, and it makes our imagination run wild, But if I have to be honest with you, I don't like wearing them.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not the only one. I don't know.
No, I don't like it either. Yeah, my teenage son has one, and he wears it all the time, and I do not. What is your most memorable experience in Jordan, and what do you wish every tourist could experience?
There are many memorable experiences in Jordan for me, because there are so many beautiful, wonderful sites that I love visiting. I love, we just had an image. I love being in the local communities, and I love meeting with the local, especially the local ladies in the local communities, because they bring something that is so genuine, so heartwarming, so enlightening, so inspiring, that I always feel myself very, very energized when I go when I go out of Amman and I go to these remote areas, or maybe to the rural areas of Jordan. Speaking of rural areas, also, speaking of my most memorable is the discovery of the importance of women in local communities. The best way I can describe them is really they are the custodians of our cultural heritage. They have so much knowledge, and they are such a great asset for us in Jordan, and I'm sure this applies for elsewhere in the world, where they are a treasure that we really need to take care of. And it's always so nice to be there and to just immerse and just enjoy the time and enjoy the stories and enjoy the anecdotes, and there is something magical about it.
Are there any new initiatives or programs that you're especially proud of that are coming up for Jordan?
Absolutely. I think, as I said, the diversity of Jordan lends itself to several kinds of segments. And we have we have amazing offerings, such as, for example, I talked about the religious tourism. That is something that I think we need to emphasize more, because Jordan is an open church. Everywhere you go, everywhere you scratch, you might find a church underneath. It's such a rich place when it comes to the Christian faith as well as the Muslim faith. So I think that spiritual aspect of Jordan that is really important to highlight. Also, I'm so proud of what Jordan managed to do for adventure tourism. In a very short span of time, Jordan proved itself on the global map as a prime destination for adventure tourism through our most amazing product called the Jordan Trail. The Jordan Trail really is our national trail, and it has managed to put Jordan on the adventure map globally. And now we see that the trail is offering what people are looking for, which is this immersive experience where you can get to visit the local communities. You get to see the country in ways that you would not see in elsewhere. Jordan Trail, I think, and adventure tourism, even though adventure has it gives you the sense of speed, but I think adventure tourism in Jordan has given us what I like to call slow travel. We have discovered recently slow food. I think travelers today are looking for slow travel. It's no longer visit here and visit there and then go. They want to go, and they want to understand, and they want to see, and they want to learn. And I think through our Jordan Trail project, and that's something I'm really proud of. And again, my friend Muna Haddad was a pioneer in developing that. Is something that I think makes me very proud, and I think makes Jordan proud.
Ambassador, I think there's no better place to stop but there. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.